Hey guys, this is Josh here in Dallas, Texas. I know last time I came to you with a live video, I was in Thailand where I usually reside, and now I am here. I'm actually in my parents' house. You can look, if you see right here, I've got a little camera that shows you the studio that I've set up in my father's office, and I've got my dad here kind of listening in and helping with some of the background stuff. But I'm really excited because today I wanted to share with you, take a little time to share with you, because I've gotten a lot of questions about an app that I've used a lot to help me with not just memorizing a lot of the scripture that I've been going through, but also really helpful with review. And I know that there are some of you that I've talked with that, review is just one of those things that it's really hard. It's really frustrating when you forget something, you've spent all that time memorizing and now you're forgetting. And so what we're going to do is we're going to walk through the app that I use called Bible Memory App. I want to show you how I use it. Most of the features that I do use, I'll give you a look at some of the features I haven't used that much, but I'll show you what they are. And then give you kind of a list of pros and cons of the things that I've really liked about it, things that that you should be aware of as well. And then we've got special guest, Brett Golson, who's actually the developer of the app. He's going to come on and share with you guys anything that I've missed or anything that I've shared with you that is incorrect, and then anything else that he's wanted to share about the app and things that he's really passionate about. So I'm excited about that. And then at the very end, if you stick around, we're going to do a Q&A. So you should be able to leave a comment. And if you want to right now, why don't you go ahead and leave a comment to say hi and let me know where you're watching from. Brett can see those, I can see those, and that way we can get an idea of who's watching right now and where you're watching from. That would be really cool to be able to have that. So I'm going to start off just showing you my app. Oh, and by the way, a couple things before we get started. I forgot about this. Two things. First is Brett has been very generous in offering you guys and myself a special discount code. So if you were to go onto the website right now, or even just anything, normally it's a 20% off discount for the app. The app itself is free to download, and you can use most of the features for free. But I highly encourage you. I encourage you to actually pay for this app. Go onto the website and use this discount code, which I'm about to show you. The discount code is Memory Goal. You'll get 40% off for today only. All right. So if you're watching this as a replay, it'll be back down to the regular 20%, but it's 40% for today only. I'm not getting paid for this. I do this just because, one, I want to support Brett. Two, I really like this app. And three, I'm hoping that this will be very helpful to you. Brett informed me, and I did not realize this, that this payment for the app is not a subscription. It's not an annual subscription that keeps renewing. This is a one-time fee, and we're talking about $9.99 that with a 40% discount goes down to $5.99. And so really, I look at it as a way to support what Brett's doing. And I really, like I said, like this app. And so I purchased it. I know that my dad purchased it. And I want you to be able to not only just take advantage of the app, but also to be able to, to get to support a good cause or what Brett's doing in keeping this app going, because it does take a lot of time and effort to keep these kind of apps going. Second thing I wanted to say is go ahead and put any questions you have into the comments, and I will do my best. And I know Brett's going to hopefully be able to see these comments as well. We'll do our best to be able to answer any questions at the end and go through those questions. So I'm seeing Mary Bell from Lexington, Kentucky. Welcome. We've got, I think that's Michigan, I believe. Frederick Sampson. It's good to see you. And Jeff from Oklahoma City. That's awesome. I love it. Thank you guys for joining, and hopefully this can be useful to you. So I'm going to go ahead and dive in right now, give you a walkthrough of the app. So I'm going to show you right now. This is my iPad. So I've downloaded it both on my iPad, on my iPhone, and then last night for the first time I actually used it on my computer. So you can use the Bible Memory app on all three of those places. It's also available on Android. I'm going to go ahead and open the Bible Memory app and give you guys an idea of what it is and how exactly it works. So one of the great things about this app is the way that it gamifies going and memorizing like scripture, like putting it into memory and then reviewing it. And that's one of the great things. So if you were to look here, I'm going to click on progress. You can see that I've got badges. I can do badges based on how many verses I've memorized, or there's just a number of different badges here, different target accuracy things that you can do. But really the thing that's interesting is this ranking. So out of the more than 10,000 people that are registered here, I'm now at 3,500. I've been using the app for maybe almost a year now, and ranked in the 3,000s, level 61. Like, honestly, those numbers are absolutely meaningless, other than to just encourage me to keep trying and keep going, and that in itself makes it a little bit fun. But all right, let's look at how you would actually go in and use this. So I want to show you, I've clicked on my verses down here on the bottom, and you can do this in so many different ways. And as you guys know, I'm taking, and I personally want to memorize extended portions of scripture. So for me, I'm trying to set it up in a book by book basis. So what you'll see here is you'll see individual books. You'll see Philippians, you'll see James, you'll see Second Thessalonians. And by the way, when you see Psalms, that doesn't mean I'm trying to memorize all the Psalms. That's just one Psalm. I'm not that good. But yeah, so if I click into Philippians, you'll see that I've divided it out into the 4 different chapters. I do that you could put all of, the book of Philippians into just one entry, but I like being able to divide it out into chapters, because for me, that's how I'm memorizing. I'm memorizing chapter numbers and chapter numbers and verse numbers. So if you wanted to do that, let's say that I wanted to set up a new book of the Bible, I could set up, let's say I wanted to do, what's a smaller book of the Bible? What's a book you would do, Dad? Jude, or you got Philemon. Yeah, I've already done those. Let's see what we can do. I'm going to do a new collection. So let's do a new collection, and I'm going to say that Ephesians, if I don't already have that on there. So I'm going to create Ephesians on here. And if you see, it's an empty collection up here. It's the 4th from the top. And so you could go into Ephesians, and I can add, just individual verses, or I can add, whole chapters. What I want to do, I just want to add in a new chapter. And I'm going to tap in, I'm going to scroll down to find Ephesians right here, and then which chapter I want, and I just want chapter 1, and I want it in the NIV. That's personally what I'm using it in. And then I can add this chapter, and you're seeing it's going through right now. Boy, that was quick. And it's adding the entire chapter of Ephesians, every single verse, one after the other. And so I could go back into this collection of verses and add chapters 2 through 6 and get it all together. So that's one way you can do it. And that's the way I've enjoyed using it. You could also go up, and I'm going to click here. I know that you can't really, actually, let me move there you go. If you see on this upper right hand below the 82% of my battery life, there's these like books on a shelf looking thing. I'm going to press that, and you can actually add what's known as a verse library. So let's say that you want to learn particular verses about marriage, right? Or you can, about Jesus or anything like that. Let's say I've got marriage right here. I can choose a different version of the Bible. So I'm going to go again. I'm using the NIV. So I'm going to click on the NIV. And it's going to pull in the verses that at least the Bible Memory app has designated as being about marriage. So let me see. I think that pulled it in. Let me see if it did. Yep, there we go. If you see right here, we've got marriage. It's got 23 verses. Now, if you look in here and you're like, I don't really like that verse, you can definitely take that out, or I can click that plus in the bottom right, and I can add a verse that I want to about marriage. So, the way that I've found that this could be really useful is, let's say you're wanting to memorize the Romans Road, or you've got a particular set of verses that your small group is going through, or your Sunday school group is going through. You can actually create those verses. You can share a collection. So I could go up here, right up here, and you see that where it says share, I could share this collection and send it to somebody else who's in my same group, or I could send it to anybody else. How do I not share? There we go. Okay. I could send it to, any group that I wanted to that was going through the same thing that I was, or was just interested in also, finding out what my collection of verses is about one particular topic that I wanted to. So you can go by topic, which, as you see here, we've got marriage, or you can go by book, which is what I tend to do. You just take and you add that collection. You can add the chapters within there, and it really works well. So let's go through. You'll see here if it's green check, that means that I have reviewed it well, and the number of days that it's due in. One of the things you'll hear me talk about in just a moment, the pros of using a software like this as opposed to, just reciting it yourself, or, let's say doing it, written paper or something like that, is that technology allows us to take advantage of something known as spaced repetition. I've already talked about how our memory works in another video that if you're watching the replay, you'll see a link to that video. I highly recommend you watch that. Spaced repetition basically allows you to train your brain in the way that it normally works. Like there's a lot of times where we memorize something and it's there, but it quickly starts to diminish. That memory does. And so we need to review that pretty quickly. And then the second time we review it, it sticks a little bit better. And then the third time, and over time, you actually don't need to review as often. So you go from reviewing every day to then every week to then every month to then maybe every couple months, depending on your memory and how well you're able to retain certain memories. And so that's what I love about using a technology like this, is that I can take advantage of spaced repetition, and what that allows my brain to do is not have to worry about, oh gosh, do I need to start review Second Thessalonians now? I can look in and go, oh no, I've got Second Thessalonians. I mean, if I want to, I can, but what I really need to do is I need to go back and do First Thessalonians, because I haven't done that one. It's 30 days overdue. And, usually I try not to let them get overdue like that, but that can happen. So let's say I do want to go in and let's say review, Jude. Okay. I could review one verse at a time, where it says single verse, or I could combine all verses. Generally, that's what I like to do. I'm going to click here on the upper right with these 3 bars. And I like to actually review all the verses combined. And so I would go through, and I'll explain why this picture is showing up on my screen in just a moment. But I would say, Jude, a servant of Jesus Christ and a brother of James, to those who have been called, who are loved in God the Father and kept for Jesus Christ. Woo. I'm glad I remembered that like off the top of my head, because didn't want to look foolish here. So I've just reviewed that, and that verse has now been checked off as being reviewed. And if you were to look here, if you notice on the right hand side, most of these are 4 days review, 5 days on the right. But because I just reviewed Jude 1:1 again, it goes up to 6 days. So it was at 3 days, and now it's doubled up to 6 days. And if I, once that 6 days, expires and I review again, it'll probably go up to 12 days or 20 days, or however it can be set in that spaced repetition. And so that way it's not like, I'll have to ask Brett, who's on the call, but also, we'll be on in just a moment. You can, I believe, set certain time intervals. So you can say, hey, I want to always be reviewing this every 30 days or every single week for the next however long. Or you can let the software itself determine how often that you want to review a lot of this stuff. So I go in, I check into the app, hopefully once a day, not all the time. And I can go and say, oh goodness, Galatians, I'm 78 days overdue. That's thanks to traveling back from Thailand, Thanksgiving and Christmas, if I'm really honest. And I can go into Galatians 1 and say, okay, I need to review Galatians 1, and I'll go through and type it. You can type it on your, on your phone. There is, like I said, I think before, there's an iOS and an Android device. And then you can go through and, just type as much. And there's a percentage. You can say, hey, I want to do it at 90 or 91% right. That means that if I get less than 10 or more than 10% wrong, it won't be counted as reviewed. I would have to go back and do it again. So let's say I went in and, did this single verse, Galatians 1, Paul, an apostle. And let's say I get it wrong. Sent, oh goodness, I don't even know what I'm doing. Sent not from men, nor by a man, but by Jesus Christ and God the Father, who raised him from the dead. Let's see if this let me go. It's asking me to do the verse. Okay, so it said, nice try, 82% accuracy. Now I can actually go in and set what that accuracy limit is. I think it's default at 90%. You could bring it up to 95 and say, listen, I want these verses to be like down pat. I want to know that I know these verses. And so I don't want to give myself a passing grade unless I get 95 or higher. Or you could bring it lower. If you're not great at typing, you constantly mess up a little bit on the typing. I mean, honestly, with the iOS, versions, it's very lenient. So if I press T, but it's supposed to be R, at least on my phone, it's thankfully lenient on that type of stuff, and it doesn't count that necessarily as wrong. But if I press, the X on a QWERTY keyboard and it's really supposed to be T, obviously it will give me a wrong one there. And if you're one of those that just has a difficult time typing, you could set your accuracy rate lower if you wanted to and say, no, I'd rather it be 85% or 80% or something like that. 90% actually works really well for me. And I think it's something that would probably work well for you, but you can retry it here, or you can just, move on for other ones. But that's what I love. I love being able to just go through an entire section of scripture and review it all in one sitting and be able to do that. Let me go ahead for a moment. I'm going to pause. I'm going to pull this off the screen and then check comments. It looks like great. Patrick has a great question about premium versus free, and I'm actually going to let Brett answer that question in a few minutes. Although it sounds like Mary Bell might have already answered it, but I want Brett to answer that as well when he comes on. If there's any other questions, I'll look at those in just a moment. A couple other things I wanted to cover before we move on. You can, like I said, in the same way that you can have a collection of verses, by topic, or even extended, whole books that you can share those collections. You can also be part of groups. Now, this isn't something that I've, obviously you can see right here, I'm not a part of any. I don't take part in any of these groups, but there are tons of different groups that if you want to be part of a group that's memorizing the same exact thing as you, you could actually say, okay, this Share Your Faith group, they memorize the Romans Road to Salvation, and then they have these, different comments that they'll show you, or just using as encouragement, I think, and then you can download those verses that you'll be memorizing and make sure. So I can click on About This Group, and it's going to tell you that they're equipping yourself to share the good news of our Lord Jesus Christ, memorize these key verses, and actively look for opportunities to share them with those around you. So, I mean, that's great. You can find some of these featured groups or all the groups, search through there for a specific passage that you're wanting to memorize, and you can join those groups, or you can create your own group as well. That is entirely possible. It's for me, I prefer to memorize with people who are kind of towards the same goal, not necessarily the same passage, which is one of the reasons that I haven't necessarily done one of the groups. I wanted to go through a couple other little things with you, and then I'm going to share with you some pros and cons. So let's say I go into Jude 1. A couple of the things, or I'm going to go into 1 Thessalonians, because if I remember right, or maybe it's 2 Thessalonians, I've actually recorded a couple of these verses with audio. If you guys have ever watched any of my videos, like when I memorized Jude, you know that one of the things I love doing when I'm starting off is recording myself saying the entire chapter, or even in the case of Jude, the entire book, because it's only 25 verses, and then listening to that while I'm walking my dog or while I'm doing something else. And that's been super efficient. It's been really helpful for me to have that audio version of myself saying it. And you can do that from within the Bible Memory app, where I go in and I'm going to do this single verse. And you can see that if I look down here on you're not even listening. You're not looking at it. If you look down here on the bottom, right below that number 1, you're going to see the microphone and then the play button. So I could go in and play this, and you're going to see, you're not going to be able to hear it right now, thankfully, or at least I don't think you will, but I could actually play this myself saying this verse, and I could go through and have the entire chapter play through if I wanted to. And then I can also, if you look here, I can tag that tag. You could tag it with a color, and then each color has a certain name. I haven't used these tags. If Brett wants to share a little bit of what he uses these tags for, I can imagine that if I wanted to tag any verse that was just super important to me or had to do with a certain topic, I could do that if I wanted to. And then same with drawing or just writing out things for flashcards. So there's a lot of ways that you can use this app to help you. So if I wanted to go in and I could do flashcards, you'll see here, I'll come in just flashcards for a second, or drawings. You can change the review frequency, which is what I was telling you about earlier, where you can change that review frequency and make it something that is more to your liking, or that suits you. So I'm going to go ahead and click into the flashcards where I can say, all right, 2 Thessalonians 1:1, Paul, Silas, and Timothy. You know, I can flip it around to make sure that I've got it. Paul, Silas, and Timothy to the church of the Thessalonians, and I can click down here on the bottom right. It says I got it, right? I can, it's going verse by verse right now, but I can go in the upper right and say, hey, I want to shuffle these cards. So I can say it and then flip it around and say, yep, I got that one. And now back to 1:1, and I can review these different verses using the flashcard app. There are a lot of other flashcard apps that you could use. You know, for example, one of them that I've really loved in the past to memorize different languages is Anki, A-N-K-I. It uses the same type of technology with spaced repetition, and you can create your own flashcards. You can kind of do the same thing with the Bible memory app. I found it a little bit harder for me to use the flashcards, which is why I personally don't. I tend to just go through and type out the verses that I'm trying to memorize. But it's still a great feature for those that love going through and using flashcards. So I've shown you how to set up your collections of verses. I've shown you how I go through and review those verses. One of the things that you can see if you go in here now, I'm going to go back into the home, excuse me, and look at my progress. Now I'm going to show you here. Hold on just a second. I'm going to show you my history graph, and it's going to be a little embarrassing. All right. I'm going to just put that out there, and then I'm going to explain why. All right. So my history graph shows that in the month of December, I haven't memorized squat, except for yesterday. I went through and a little bit today, and just so that not everything looked red when I went through and you saw where my verses were. And there's a couple reasons for this. One, you know, I've been traveling. It's the holidays, and it's just been really hard. But two, and this is where one of the cons, I think, of using technology to really keep track of what you're doing when you're memorizing anything, is that I love, like I said, walking and then just reviewing in my head, saying it out loud and going through and repeating an entire chapter or an entire book. I actually think that is, for me, what I want to get to. Like, I'm using technology as a crutch to get up to the point where I'm verbally saying it out loud, because that's what I want to do. I want to be able to share it out loud in person to, you know, as I need to, or, you know, just to be ready with an answer. Right. But there's no way, or at least none that I'm aware of. Brett, you can hear me right now. So if there is, you can let me know. But there's no way for me to go in and say, hey, guess what? I reviewed all of Philippians. So can I, you know, instead of saying, hey, I need to review it in, you know, 3 days, I already said it on my walk. But now if I want this to show up on the app, I have to go in and now type everything out again. Right. The slow way, the way that I don't necessarily want to remember it as much as I wanted to be able to say Philippians. And I'm at the point where I can say Philippians. And so when I go and say it, and then I come back to the app and it says, hey, you haven't reviewed Philippians in 30 days. And I'm like, no, actually I have. And I wish there was a way. So there's a ways in which gamifying your memory is really beneficial. And then there are other ways, and I'm explaining it right now, where it makes it somewhat discouraging when I go in and I see that, you know, let's say you're looking at here and you go, hey, oh, Josh, you haven't looked at Galatians in 78 days. You are way overdue. And I could say to you, man, you know, I've actually said Galatians twice in the past month while taking a walk. Now, granted, I know you're not looking at my Bible memory app and my progress and judging me because of that, but I do, because that's the whole point of gamification. I mean, you know, I want to you gamify to get points, and then, you know, you can also, in the same way, there's the opposition of getting discouraged by the gamification and saying, whoa, no, actually I did do that, but it's not showing up. So just wanted to kind of put that out there for you guys, for those that look at this and say, wow, 92 days on Colossians, 30 days on 1 Thessalonians, 78 days on Galatians. That's just so discouraging. I don't know if I can go back and, you know, try to, all that means is it hasn't been, it's that far overdue. It's not that hard to go in and get it caught up. But if those start to stack up, you know, you take a couple of weeks for vacation or something like that, it can be discouraging. I've felt that before. So I would say I'm going to go ahead and list the pros and cons for myself. I'm going to get Brett on here, and then we've got time for Q&A, because I don't want this to go too long. But pros, like I said, it syncs between my devices, my phone, my iPad, and on the computer. Sometimes I have to actually close the app. You may notice that, like if I do something on my phone and then I immediately go onto my iPad somewhere else that same day, sometimes I've got to force close the app in order for it to sync up. At least that's the way it is on my iPad. But also that gamification is a pro, and then the spaced repetition is, whether you realize it or not, it is a huge benefit to the way that you memorize and the way that you review things, to have that spaced repetition as part of how you memorize. And then, of course, the cons that I've talked about is just the fact that it's difficult to translate what you do offline onto the app. I don't necessarily feel like I can tell the app that, hey, I did, I said the entire book of Galatians, and I don't feel it. Maybe Brett's going to come on and tell me otherwise. So we'll let him do that. But yeah, so hopefully if you have any questions, why don't you go ahead and keep putting those in, and I'm going to bring on Brett right now. Brett, his name, this is Brett Golson. And he is the guy who has developed this app, the Bible Memory app. Brett, thank you so much for joining us. Why don't you share just for a moment who you are, where you're at, and kind of your motivation for building this app?
Yeah, Josh, thanks so much for having me. My family and I were in Birmingham, just outside of Birmingham, Alabama. And this has just been the Bible Memory app is just a family ministry that we've started about 10 years ago. And just because we personally, enjoy memorization, and specifically, I am terrible at it, just because of the attention span required. And I was just looking for an easier way to memorize and to stay focused. And so that's, the features you see in there are because those are the ones that I needed. And it's just turned out that a lot of other people find them helpful too. So I really appreciate you taking the time to give this great demo of the app. And yeah, so just my family, I have a wife, Kinsey, and then we have 4 kids, 3 boys and a girl. And just enjoying life with them and watching them grow in the Lord. And I think we're in a similar life stage, Josh.
That's awesome. Brett, can you share with me, you were able to hear kind of everything that I shared just a moment ago, where there was, did I say anything wrong, first of all? And then are there some parts missing that you feel like, hey, this is something that I spent a lot of time developing, this particular feature that wasn't highlighted here?
Yeah, I think you did a great job of demoing it. I didn't find any errors, so you can breathe easy there.
Awesome.
Let's see, as far as the things to highlight, if you notice while Josh was giving the demo, he's really zipping through these verses, and he may have mentioned this while I was looking at comments, but you only type the first letter of each word when you're going through to memorize a verse, which was intentional, just because typing on an iOS keyboard, if you tried to type out every letter, which is an option we have, you can turn on typing everything, but it's really not necessary. By typing the first letter, it forces your mind to recall the whole word. So it's just a great shortcut to be able to really zip through a verse about as fast as you could say it, just typing. And then he also mentioned the fact that you don't have to hit the key exactly on it. You can hit any key surrounding the correct key, and it will count it correct. Just to let you, basically, you don't even have to look at the keyboard. If you get good at using it, you can just type with one hand and zip through it and memorize quickly. So those are just a couple of the simple basics that are really important and really helpful to make it usable long term, and to help the app stay out of your way. And I really like what Josh said. The ultimate goal is not to be able to go on the app and type the verse. It's to be able to be fluent enough with these verses that we can share them in ministry, just encouraging family, people we meet, sharing the gospel. So many benefits to memorizing scripture, and I love how Josh covers those. And that's the goal of the app, is to make the app irrelevant, other than just helping you keep a history and library of what you've memorized and what you're working on, and a way to review it when you do need that help.
Awesome. All right. And I'm putting, let's see here. Yeah, I'm putting a link here. Make sure that you guys understand. Like, if you were to purchase this through Apple, the app and the upgrade and all that stuff, the money would, the 30% cut actually goes to Apple. Whereas if you use this right here, the promo memory goal, I'm not actually taking a cut at all. This is going directly to Brett and the development and the continued development of this app. Brett, can you go ahead and answer for me for just a moment the difference between the free and paid? Because I know that there is so much that you can do without having to pay for it. What are the features that are different there?
Right. So yeah, anybody can use the app for free. There is a limit of 50 verses that you can have in the system at a time that you're actively working on. So if you want to, seriously use this, we really would encourage you to go ahead and get the pro version. But you can check it out, make sure the typing to memorize system works for you. You get full access to that in the free app. So with the full version, it takes the verse limit off, so you can put in as many verses as you want. There are no advertisements for the pro version, so you get a little more screen space, not having that banner on there to upgrade. The audio review, which is one of my favorite parts of the app that Josh mentioned. You can just, especially for extended passages, like if you're trying to memorize a whole chapter or book of the Bible, if you go in and record those verses, then you can, like he showed you, you can play those back a chapter at a time or a book of the Bible at a time even. And while you're walking, we do this with the stroller with the babies around the block. You just turn these things on and try to speak along with your recordings, and is a great way to get fluent in saying the verses, not just being able to, think through it. You'll actually get real fluent really quickly as you try just to speak along with the verses that you've recorded. So that's part of the pro app is the audio. Flashcards are a pro feature. The drawings that he showed you, that's another thing for like our kids really enjoy. Like, we'll use the app with our kids so that as they memorize a new verse, we can kind of reward them by letting them go draw a picture on it. Well, it also helps you make a visual association with that verse. When you hear the verse reference, you kind of, that picture will flash into your mind and prompt you, cue you up to how to what the topic of that verse is. And then let's see, you can also, like, if you want to have more control over your review frequency, say I don't want the system to move the review frequency out from 1 day to 2 days to a week to 2 weeks on its own. I want to control that. I want to review all my verses once a week. You can do those kind of things with the pro version of the app. It just gives you full control over the review frequency of your verses that you've memorized. And there's some other little things along the way, but those are the main pro features that you're talking about.
Awesome. Okay, Brett, one of the questions that we got from Mary Bell, which I think is really good, she says she's added collections over the years and now she has tons and it's very cluttered. Is there a way that I can organize here? I'm going to put this on the screen. Is there a way that I can organize those now into parent collections, or would I have to start over?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what I would do is a little bit technical, but if you want to create a new parent collection and move, let's say I've got 100 collections out there and they're all just at the top level. Well, I can go in and create a new collection that'll be a parent collection. And then if you go into the ones that you want to move into that, you just can long press on them. So just press and hold on the screen, and it'll give you a menu, and you can just go in and edit the collection, and it'll let you select the parent collection for it. And so any collections that I want to put inside of another one, I would just go on and long press them and then select where I want to put them into. And so you don't have to delete or recreate anything. You can just move them around in that way.
Awesome. Thank you, Brett, for sharing that. Yeah, I was just showing on screen. I think, let me see here. I'm going to show this again on screen for a moment. Oh, wait, hold on. All right, let's see if you can see this here. So I just showed an example. I created this test collection right here. And let's say I wanted to move Jonah. You long pressed, you click edit collection, I believe you said. And then do I click this parent collection?
Correct.
Okay, but for some reason, nothing's showing up underneath. Normally, would something else show up underneath this?
Yeah, does Jonah have child collections in there?
Oh, it does. It does.
Yeah, there is a limit so that you can only go 2 levels deep.
Okay.
And we had to do that just for the performance, so it wouldn't slow
Gotcha.
down the app.
So I could actually go, so marriage might be a good example where
Right.
I could do that. And then I could put marriage into the test. So in that case, it sounds like what you're saying is if I wanted to go into something that had a lot of chapters, I'd have to do each chapter, go into that edit collection, and then move that one into the test. Is that right?
Correct. You've got
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Oh no. And I don't know what I was just doing. Chapter of what? I don't want to actually move them, but okay. Wow, Mary, that was an excellent question. Thank you so much for asking that. Let's see. Is this a yearly? So Eva, back to, I'm going to go through a question that she said, and I'll go ahead and answer this. Is this a yearly or a monthly subscription? And honestly, I was shocked. I think this is really cool. And honestly, as a business person, I'm like, I'm like, I think Brett should do it differently. He should make it a subscription, but this is what he does. This is a one-time thing. And I mean, it's really not that expensive. Brett, it's like $9.99. Is that correct?
Correct. Just a one-time fee. You'll never have to pay again for it's not a subscription.
And so for those who are still watching right now, I've got it up here. It's BibleMemory.com/promo/memory goal. And if you weren't here at the very beginning, what we've said is Brett was just very generous to give us a 40% discount for today only on this live broadcast. But if you're watching this in the future as a replay, you'll still get that 20% discount. It's still definitely worth it in my opinion, especially since this is a one-time fee. This isn't something where you're caught in an annual subscription, and it helps support the development of this app. So I highly recommend you take advantage of that. I'm going to go back into the comments here for a second and see if there's anything. I have my granddaughter record my verses. Wow. Did you see that? That would be so cool if you had your grandkids recording your verses, so that way you're getting a little bit of nostalgia as you're listening to your verses being recited to you. So that's pretty cool. One-time purchase. That's almost hard to believe. Oh, here we go. This is George Anderson with a question. He says, "Hey, I'm a developer. What's your tech stack? Is any of the app open source?"
George, this is my kind of guy here. It's not open source. We're on a Microsoft backend, so SQL Server, and then just native development for the apps. So we work within Swift for iOS and Java for Android. So we don't do any of the cross-platform app development. Everything's native, just so it can be cleaner and faster.
Yep. We've got a question from John Davidson. He says, "There's a version for PC."
No, but you can use it at BibleMemory.com. And like Josh mentioned, everything is synchronized. So if you're working on the website, your same account will work on Android and iOS devices. You could have it on as many devices as you want, and everything will stay in sync that way.
Awesome. And we got another question here, Brett, that I think is really interesting, just because I've actually, I'm going to possibly do a video on this pretty soon. I've had to deal with the NIV, the Biblica, having to do with copyright, because they don't necessarily like the fact that I'm reciting an entire book of the Bible using their copyrighted material, interesting enough. So I know that if you go into your app, you can actually read different versions of the Bible, but you might have to pay for them. So let me actually, I'm going to pull up real quick just so that people can see this. I can take, and if you go on the bottom right here on the Bible, you can read the Bible if you don't have a Bible app, but you'll see that you actually have to pay for the different versions that are copyrighted. So you've got the King James Version, which is out of copyright protection at this point, but ESV, NIV, NASB, CSB, all of those are copyright protected, and so you do have to pay for those. But I think the question, Brett, is, and let me pull this up, how do you get the ESV text without breaking copyright laws? I'm building a similar... George, I think I'm gonna have to connect you guys later. Yeah. I think I'll let you guys worry about app development, but how do you get around copyright laws using the different versions of the Bible here?
Yeah, so I'm glad you went to this area. Maybe we'll do another video just on the Bible tab. I'll have to maybe donate you a copy of the NIV so you can check it out. Okay. That's the newest portion of the app is having the full Bible in there, and you don't just read it. It's connected with what you're memorizing, so you can see your progress. Any verses you've memorized will show up highlighted, underlined. and color coded so that as you're reading, you can know what you've memorized and see how your progress on it is. As far as copyright, we have a relationship with each of the individual Bible publishers, and as you just mentioned, you can pay. We have licensing for each of the full Bibles. And as a part of that, we've also gotten permission to use individual verses to be able to allow our users to import individual verses and work on those as well. So it's, there's no real easy way around, copyright. If you're trying to build an app like this, you really just have to make the connections, build the relationships with the publishers. Everybody that we're working with has been really great. And it's just, you just kind of have to reach out and build the connections.
So I need to go figure out a person that I can connect with at Biblia, apparently, and figure out a way to play nice with them in a way that they want to help me. All right.
Right.
Another great question, and one, Brett, that I had asked you as well. What's next for the future? Mary Bell asks, any other plans?
Wow. Well, at this point, we have a very long development list. We love getting feedback. That's the app is where it is because of great feedback from our users, and we're constantly trying to add in the best of the ideas that we get. And I've heard some of the best today from Josh in his. And some of his desires for the app, just the ability to go in and say, hey, I reviewed Colossians 1 while I was walking this morning. How can I get that into the app? And doing that in a way that doesn't break the gamification and the scoring, because we have these, it's all just for fun, but people like the rankings and to be able to see where they're going. And if they've got friends on there, they can kind of casually compete with each other just for fun. And we don't want to break that by allowing people just to go in and say, hey, I memorized every, chapter in Colossians today. And all of a sudden they're to the top of the ranking. So that's one of the challenges in having these little fun features, is you can't be quite as flexible with other things, but there are ways around that. And so that's one of the things that's definitely on my mind to do and on the list. So we're just constantly keeping up with the changes to the in development environments. Every time there's a new iOS update or Android update, all kind of curveballs they throw you. So we're just trying to keep up with those and add new features and do what we can with what the Lord's given. So
awesome. Well, guys, I see no other questions, but feel free, if you're watching a replay of this or anything like that, to leave a comment on the either Facebook video or on the YouTube video, and I'll do my best to go through and answer those. And if I can't, I'll see if I can get Brett to answer some of these questions as well. As I said before, this is a free app to download. And if you are looking into 2022 and you do want to make scripture memory something that's important to you for this coming year, you've got some goals that you're setting, using something like this, it really, it is a motivation as you get into these things. And so I highly recommend you go and download the app right now. It's available both on iOS and Android. You can search for it, the Bible Memory app. So that the helps to kind of make it easier to find. You'll see the logo you see under the scripture Bible memory where, I'm not even on a full screen here, but you'll see that Bible with the cross in the middle. You'll see that on the app. That's what it looks like. You'll see, if you look right here on my top left, that's what the app looks like, with just the Bible and the cross. That's what you're looking for. And then I highly recommend you go and you can either on the website use the promo code Memory Goal, or if you want to, you can go directly at biblememory.com/promo/memory goal. And if you do that today, as we're doing this live, Brett, as I said, has been very generous to give us 40% off. I honestly, they do Christmas things and all that. Like, I've seen them do a lot of different promos. I've never seen 40% off. And especially for something that's already this cheap and it's a one-time, I feel like I'm a salesperson. And I guess I am in some way right now, but I get no benefit from this. I just really think that this is something that you guys would use and enjoy. I really like what Brett's done, and so I want to support that as well. And so I encourage you to use this promo code. Download it today. If you're watching this later, you're still going to get a 20% discount. It's still not that expensive, and it's something that can, just be something there on your phone that now you have no excuse to take and keep memorizing the Bible. Guys, thank you so much for being a part of this live video. I'm really enjoying this format. I love being able to interact with you. All of you guys who were there in the comments, Mary Bell, John Davidson, Cindy Brown, Eva Cortez. I'm glad you just bought it. That's awesome. And then Who Would Have Thunk Reviews. I don't know what your first name is, but thank you for being a part of that. And thank you. Oh, Shirley, I see your name now. There you go. Shirley, thank you so much for being a part. And you guys have a wonderful new year. I hope it was a blessed Christmas. And I wish you that, the Lord blesses you and your family over this coming year. You guys take care.